What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Jimmer Range podcast. This is episode 5, 6?
Yes,
I don't know.
I think it's 5.
Is it
I think
5?
it's 5.
Okay. Wow, look at us. We made it 5 episodes. It's probably more than most other podcasts. So, milestone. All right. Alex and I, this is Alex, I'm Carl, and we're cranking through our conference previews ahead of the college basketball season. If you haven't seen some of our other ones, we've done ACC, Big 10, Big 12. Be sure to go check those out. We are hosted by Vendetta Sports Media. So go check out the site, vendettasportsmedia.com. We pump out some written content on there. So go look for those. And we promise the preseason top 25 is coming at some point.
Just had midterms. It's tough. Yeah.
It's we go back and forth on a lot of teams. So we're gonna eventually come to a consensus on how we feel. But yeah, so that'll come out before November 1st, we promise. So yeah, before we get to the Pac-12 +1, you can probably guess who the +1 is. We're going to talk about some other topics that have come up in the last week or so that we have not had a chance to touch on. So the first one in Bishop Sycamore news, there's another prep school that isn't really a school yet, and that's Kanye West's Donda Academy.
Yes.
Apparently, what Kanye West has been doing, he's been sliding into the DMs of a number of 4- and 5-star recruits and saying, hey, want to come play for this school that I'm starting? And some of them have actually said yes. So there's a lot to unpack here, I think. Definitely it's a weird thing.
Yes.
Alex, give me your thoughts on Donda Academy, because I certainly have some thoughts about it.
Where to begin?
Here's a thought. Is Kyle Filipowski going to flip from Duke to Donda Academy?
No, because he said, when I sent that thing to you in the College Hoops Slack, that he had changed his profile pic on Instagram to the black thing that like Robert Dillingham, Zion Cruz, all those guys had. He actually then like tweeted like 2 hours later. I think it was just an excellent troll job. He just like tweeted a picture in the gym of his high school with like, I'm staying home. Just an excellent troll job by Kyle Filipowski. Did have me worried for a second though. But
when Kanye West overtakes Shire in recruiting, that's when things get real interesting.
A little dicey. Kyle's got to worry for his job too, apparently. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting concept. We've seen these kind of celebrities. They have not been A-list. They have not been Kanye. Like we saw the attempt with LeVar Ball trying to start multiple leagues, trying to get that track on process. But I mean, he's already gotten Dillingham, who's a 5-star electric scorer from Charlotte. Love the guy. Probably is headed to Carolina. Who knows? Zion Cruz, Jalen Hooks, Ja'Kai Howard, all 2024 guys. Well, I think Cruz is 2023. But, Filipowski would have been a major get for them in terms of having a senior on the roster. But, I mean, I'm just interested to see how it goes because I don't think it's fully Bishop Sycamore. They'll definitely have funding. They'll be sponsored by Adidas, which is sick. Yeah. Probably get some free Yeezys.
Yeah, that's true.
The list goes on.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what their uniforms look like because Kanye's he's got some interesting fashion choices. I just want to see them run out there with like choir robes or something. Like
that would be amazing.
Something crazy. Like that'd be awesome.
If they're listening to gospel music before games, if they play can they play people besides Kanye while they're warming up? I don't think they can.
I don't think they'd be allowed to.
That would not be okay.
Yeah, but there's layers to this too. Like, Drake has ties to Sierra Canyon. So it's like Kanye's got to get.
There absolutely is.
Kanye's got to get his like kind of high school thing in there.
CLB versus Donda.
CLB versus Donda all over again. Yeah, it's kind of weird, but
hilarious.
Apparently it's working, and we'll see if this actually comes to fruition and becomes a real thing. But just some interesting high school basketball news for you there. Honestly, like when are we going to break into the starting a league? Like seems like everyone's doing it these days. Like we should just slide into the DMs of some 4 and 5-star recruits and tell them to come play for the school we're starting. Like, what would it be? Like solid academy. That's what our school would be. Yeah. Continuity academy. That's what our school would be. Yeah. All right. Well, hey, for all you 4 and 5-star recruits out there, check your DMs. We'll be sliding in shortly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. So that's Donda Academy. Next thing, Emoni Bates. We've talked about him. Maybe we've touched on him like a little bit, in an episode or two
I have
before.
more written content about him though on the website. You can check it out.
Yes, more written content about him on the website. So some interesting things happen. I mean, so for those of you who might not have heard of Emoni Bates, he's a top 5 freshman in this class, committed to Memphis.
Yep.
You know, pretty well known on the high school circuit, was billed as the next LeBron James, the next Kevin
KD.
Durant. Yeah, the next literally just, you know, he's been compared to everybody at this
Yes.
point. Supposed to be just this transcendent talent. Memphis had a pro day this past week, and they released Emoni Bates's measurables, and they were poor. They were very, very bad. His vertical is apparently only 24 inches, which is kind of interesting. I feel like I have friends who can jump higher than that. His wingspan is shorter than his listed height. His hands are small. Just like every possible thing on that sheet that came out was bad, like really, really bad. Is this something? Well, I have a take on this, but I want to hear yours first about what this is. What's going on?
I pulled up the tweet because I wanted to have the stats from Jonathan Givony from ESPN to have like the actual stats.
Yeah.
And somebody said that Jared Goff's standing vertical is more than Emoni Bates, and now like I'm just trying to find that. Because that is not. I mean, it can't be wrong, but I'm so shocked that it's 24 and a half inches.
So
like I really don't understand how I'm just dumbfounded at the moment.
Yeah, I'm confused too. And the only way I have to explain this is that I do think these numbers are a lie. That's my take. I think because here's the thing. So I was listening to Titus and Tate, so some of these ideas are coming from them. But I think since Emoni Bates, he can't go pro after this year. So he's probably like, why the heck am I doing a pro day when I can't even go pro?
Yeah, but all these schools do pro days. Like Duke does a pro day, Carolina. You're just getting your measures for the year.
I just don't see how somebody could be called like the next big thing and not be able to jump like at all. Like, and I'm just, I don't know. I'm really
still a bucket. This is not.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
No, man is an offensive scoring machine. Interested to see how he defends. We could totally have a full episode dedicated to freshmen, but
we could, and maybe we will.
Maybe we will.
Maybe we will.
I have some Paolo Banchero takes.
Okay, cool. That'll give us a good chance to talk about Memphis too, since I don't really know if we're going to preview the American, but
yeah,
we'll see.
But the height doesn't surprise me. I feel like he's been in that 6'9" range since freshman year of high school. So it's kind of unfortunate to not see him maybe add another inch or two, because that would certainly, like him and Chet Holmgren, similar frames kind of in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's kind of got the KD Slim Reaper vibes. That's who he was kind of compared to. It's a similar form in terms of like having it more up top over here rather than towards his right shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I'm not as concerned about these pro day measurements as maybe some people are, because I think his talent is still going to leap off the pages. And I'm more interested, I know you've highlighted it, but to see if he actually plays point forward, because that's his playmaking ability rather than his scoring ability is what will kind of separate him from the rest of these guys.
Yeah, I agree. I would agree with you. I don't really put a ton of stock into like this kind of like pro day, like measurable type of stuff. Like a guy can jump out of the gym and still like Cassius Stanley, no disrespect, guy can jump out of the gym, but like not like the best basketball player, you know? So I don't know. But no disrespect. That was just the first guy that came to mind, I promise. Like it's not just because he's a Duke guy. That's just the first
Okay.
that's just the first guy I thought of, I promise. Yeah, but people here's my beef with just basketball talent evaluators in general. Stop comparing people to the greatest players of all time. Just stop
Yes.
doing it. Like that is the first way to get me to not listen to you. Like there will not be another Kevin Durant. Like Kevin Durant is Kevin Durant. There will not be a next Kevin Durant. Like he's one of the
It's too hard.
arguably a top 10 player of all time, just based on like ability.
Yes. As a rebuttal, because you could definitely see the tape similarities between early Emoni Bates and Kevin Durant, just the way the little shimmy into a crossover, elevating into a right wing three. Like
Yeah,
it's the same move.
that's true.
Clearly he's Emoni watched KD film. I mean, why wouldn't you? But I think it's tough because you can't. He was billed, and he could still very well be a generational talent. But you can't just come out and say Emoni Bates, player comparison himself, like he's just going to be one of the greatest players of his generation. Like
Okay.
you can't.
Sure.
That would be my rebuttal.
Okay, that's fair. Like I get having to like just for the sake of evaluating them, like comparing them to somebody, but just immediately coming out and saying like he's going to be Kevin Durant. Like I don't know. It's like cuz the thing is like we've heard this about multiple people. Like we heard
Brandon Ingram.
Andrew Wiggins is going to be the next LeBron James. Like we've heard like all this stuff and it usually does not.
And it usually equates to their frame. That's the funniest thing to me.
Yeah, it's their frame and like, maybe they have like a move or two. Like Jason Tatum has gotten the Kobe comparisons because he's got that little like post fadeaway and like, so I don't know. I get it, but also let's, pump the brakes a little bit. I think.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's, that's kind of our little.
Those are the two storylines.
Those are the two little takes we got. Moving on now into the Pac-13 slash the Pac-13, the Pac-12 plus one. A little tongue in cheek that we're going to include Gonzaga in this, but
yes.
And okay, let's get out ahead of this because this is not us saying that Gonzaga is not a mid-major. Gonzaga is absolutely a mid-major. They do not.
We had this conversation.
Yes, they do not just suddenly become a Power 5 team because
they're good.
Yeah, like that's just not how it works. Also, they have other programs other than their basketball program. Like that's what people need to understand is like the mid-major applies to the school. It does not apply to the specific program of basketball. Like
yes,
they are a mid-major. They play in the West Coast Conference. They're a super small school with not as much money as some of these other schools.
Yes.
Like, they're a mid-major. So
I do have a quick interjection.
Okay.
Yes. Your thought on something.
Okay.
You did mention the Power 5 thing, and that if you're not Power 5, you're kind of labeled as that mid-major.
Mm-hmm.
Is Villanova a mid-major? Because the Big East is technically not considered part of the Power 5. However, I would take the Big East over some Power 5 conferences in college basketball. So do you think it's like a Power 6 in college basketball, or do we have to keep the Power 5?
I would say in college basketball it is a Power 6 because I do think some of those Big East teams are.
We have to. We kind of have to. But yes.
Yeah, but I think that's the only thing where you can really like go outside.
Deviate.
Yeah, yes. Kind of deviate. Like I don't think you could just pick a school. Like if VCU, with Shaka Smart became like this insane like, powerhouse like year to year, like nobody would be saying that like, oh, they're not a mid-major anymore because they're good. Like I don't know. It's
I get it.
Yeah, it's just let's just get out ahead of that now. But now we're going to talk about Gonzaga. So Gonzaga made it to the national championship game last year. One of the most efficient teams ever in college basketball history. A lot of people didn't believe in them, I don't think, because they do kind of play in a Mickey Mouse conference. Nobody's really quite on the level.
Come on. Don't sleep on St. Mary's like that.
I mean, fair. Like they always drop one to like St. Mary's or BYU, but like other than that, I
Not
mean,
last year, but yeah.
yeah, not last year. Last year they won every game leading up to the national championship game, and then um, I don't think they got the breaks beaten off of them, but the first 10 minutes were pretty rough of that
They
game.
got their breaks beaten off of them in the first like 12 minutes, and that's all that Baylor needed.
Yeah, and then they kept pace the rest of the game, but yeah, they might have even outscored them the rest of the game by a little bit, I think. But yeah, those first
It
12
didn't feel like it. I just remember it did not feel like it though.
Yeah. So we've kind of talked about one of the storylines for Gonzaga entering the season, and that's that Mark Few will miss
Yep.
the first couple games after his DUI situation. But like I said, he's going to be back for Texas, and so at the end of the day, like I don't know that
Is it really? Yeah.
does it really matter as far as performance goes.
Can he be in contact with the team?
That's actually I don't know. That's a good
I don't
question.
either.
That's a good
Because
question.
that's critical. If he can maintain contact with the team, then it's
Because it's the school who's making the rules in this case.
correct.
The school is saying you can't be here for these 2 or 3 games or whatever.
Yes.
And
Hold
2
on.
of them are like exhibitions.
It's two exhibition games, and then it's the Dixie State season opener.
Yeah. So really, like, it almost doesn't matter if he can maintain contact with the team. Like, those are not games that they're going to lose with the talent that they have on that roster. Yeah. So while you look that up, so Gonzaga loses Jalen Suggs. They lose Corey Kispert. Any other major losses? I think I mean those are the big 2. But and
Joel
Joel
Ayayi.
Ayayi, yeah, they lose him. All those 3 go to the NBA. But that does not mean that Gonzaga will fall off this year. Gonzaga will still be very, very good. They are most people's preseason number 1 team in the country.
They're probably ours.
And probably ours. Yeah. Until we change our minds inevitably. And I don't know, but I'm just kidding. But yeah, so they returned Drew Timme, who is a lot of people's preseason pick for National Player of the Year. Definitely one of the best players in the country coming back this year. A lot of people weren't sure if he was going to come back, but he is back. So he'll be kind of anchoring that front court, be the primary option for this team. They also return Andrew Nemhard, who was their
Massive.
who was their 6th man last year, and he would have been a first or second option, I think, on most other teams in the country.
Yes.
He's phenomenal, and so to just have him coming off the bench,
Great floor general.
really good, really solid, and I hate it. I hate that I said that.
He is not really solid. He is really good. I'm going to take away the solid
there.
there.
Good. I will not demote him to solid. He also does like he wears like the high shorts thing too, which I like, the high socks and like the short shorts. Like he's got a look too. It's kind of cool.
But you don't like the high shorts?
No, I do. No,
I
do. Yeah, I think I just think it's cool. It's like a John Stockton like type of throwback look. I like it.
Yes.
And they also are adding 2 top 6 freshmen. So they had Chet Holmgren, who's the number 1 freshman in the country. Okay, well, I already know who.
Okay.
I already know what you're going to say.
I'm going to let it go. He's the number 1 freshman in the country, according to his consensus.
Consensus, except for you.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just move past that because I already know where Alex's head and heart are with regards to that. But Chad Holmgren going to be really good. He's like 7'1", can do pretty much anything you want on the floor.
Absolute unicorn.
Yeah, so he's going to be good right away. And that's just we'll talk about some tactics in a second. And then they also bring in Hunter Salas, who is also going to be phenomenal for them. So just give me your thoughts on Gonzaga real quick, just with what they're bringing in.
So I mean the big 4 ones, we got Holmgren, consensus number 1 player of the year, number 1 freshman in the country. You've got Salas, who I think was like a consensus top 20 5-star kind of. I'm not sure whether he was a point guard in high school. Figures to probably, but with Nemhard, like he's kind of slotting into that off-ball role, can still run, but that offense is so just moves. So, and Hickman, another kind of like combo guard, he looked really good in their scrimmage. I think he'll start. Like I really, and they brought in Rasir Bolton, who was a great scorer at Iowa State, but I
Yeah.
really do think Hickman has kind of separated himself and will play over Bolton to start the season.
Mhm.
Julian Strother's back. I think Caden Perry, he's a newcomer. He's just reloading to the absolute max. This is such a good team.
Yes. Yeah. They're going to be really dangerous. And I'm honestly curious to see. So Jalen Suggs was just a god in transition, like
Yes.
unbelievable. And Corey Kispert was like the perfect spot up guy to also have running in transition too, because he's hitting like 50% of his 3-point shots, like something insane like that. And
Yeah.
so I'm curious though, with Timmy and Holmgren kind of being probably the top two options, like what their style is going to look like this year, because I don't know that it'll be as transition focused.
It could though. Holmgren got in transition with Jalen Suggs and Minnehaha Academy.
That's true. That's
and I get it. It's high school. They also played together on Minnesota Sizzle, the Under Armour circuit team.
Mm-hmm.
But Holmgren, when I say this, Holmgren literally is a point guard strapped in a 7'2" skinny white dude's body. Like, I mean, like needs to add some muscle, but the dude, he can shoot it. He's got range, got post-up game. His best attribute really might be his ability to protect the rim. And I don't know if we can play the clip, but there's a clip of him at Steph Curry's Under Armour camp, leaving him in absolute dust with the combo double behind the back move, and then finishing it off with a dunk. So.
Yeah. He's just got so much in his bag, and
it's really ridiculous.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, I don't even think it really, like, we can talk about tactics all we want, but like, this is a team that can beat you with their forwards. They can beat you with their guards. They just have such a deep and talented team that, you know, they can kind of they can play it however they want and probably still be successful.
And they'll be better defensively. I think that's a key too.
Oh yeah.
On the interior, Holmgren makes them better. I think Strother is going to take a leap.
Mm-hmm.
And Salas, I don't know. I haven't watched enough tape on him, but I feel like he can defend.
Yeah. Yeah. So long story short, Gonzaga will still be that team this year. Lost some key guys, but you know, those guys leave, more guys coming in. It will be really good for them.
And they're non-conference. I mean, Mark Few is not scared to schedule.
No,
they'll play Texas, UCLA, Duke, Alabama, Texas Tech.
That's a disgusting non-conference schedule. Like that's.
And I get it. You're compensating it for an extent, the West Coast Conference, but you're playing Duke, probably a top 10 team, Texas, top 3, UCLA, everywhere but us in like 3-man weave is a top 3 team.
Yeah.
Alabama, top 15. Texas Tech is like I'm not going to say solid, is
top
a
25-ish.
Yeah. Bubble top 25.
Bubble top 25. Yeah.
7 to 10 seed in the tournament.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, watch out for Gonzaga this year. They still got it. Okay. Now to move into the, I guess the traditional Pac-12 teams. You know, as always, the way me and Alex do this, we individually rank the teams. We do not see each other's rankings before the episode. And then we go in reverse order of predicted finish. So we will start with the 12th ranked team, work our way up to the first ranked team. So far, our rankings have been fairly similar, with most of the conferences, with maybe 1 or 2 like big differences, just teams that individually that we're higher on than probably most people or lower on than most people. But all right, let's move into our number 12 team in the Pac-12, and that is Cal. California was really, really, really bad last year. I think they were 3-17 in the conference, and entering this year, they have lost their best player. So yeah, not a lot positive to say about the Golden Bears this year. But yeah, that's just kind of, I don't know. They're not going to be good.
No, they're not going to be good. They're the bottom of the Pac-12. I think everyone has them at 12. Um, I will say Jordan Shepherd, I've watched him both in person and just on the TV at Charlotte, can absolutely score the rock. Could very well be the go-to guy on a totally new team.
Mhm.
But it's just gonna be tough for them. They're gonna have to beat UCLA, Oregon. Maybe they steal a couple games here and there, but they're bottom.
Yeah, they're definitely bottom. They do return quite a bit of guys. You know, that's that continuity we always harp on. But
Yep.
it's continuity is kind of a moot point when you were 3-17 last year. Like just returning the entire team of a you know of a team that didn't win really at all. Usually not
Yeah.
that good of a thing. So continuity is context specific, and in this context, probably not the most positive thing. But they have some guys who can score. They have some guys who can defend, and they'll probably steal a couple games from sort of the middle tier of the Pac-12. But other than that, this will not be a great season for Cal, as it has not been the last 4 to 5 years. Okay, so that's Cal. Moving on. Number 11 is Washington, the Washington Huskies. I had them at 11, and you had them at 10. So
Yes.
you want to open us talking about Washington?
For starters, only way to go is up after dreadful season last year. I mean, just 5-21, one game better than Cal in conference. They return a lot of guys. To me, I think coaching continuity is almost as kind of critical as player continuity, and that's why I have them just a step above Utah.
Mhm.
Although Craig Smith could totally make me eat my words and have Utah perform at a higher clip than Washington. But I really do like PJ Fuller. He struggled throughout college, but he's back home in Seattle. Remember watching tape of him in high school. He can score the ball. He'll compete for minutes. They have a ton of transfers. 2 guys who've already played in the Pac-12 will know the kind of battle that it's going to be. But it's still a bottom tier Pac-12 team.
Yeah, I'd agree. They've kind of done some funky things in the last couple of years with just their defensive sets. They try to do what Syracuse does with the zone, except they do it
Yeah.
not well, and it just really hasn't worked out for them as far as just overall team defense and results go. And I think they've steadily. I saw a stat somewhere, probably 3-man weave or something. I don't know, but they have been slowly phasing out the zone. So it's they don't really have a defensive identity anymore, and that just kind of comes down to coaching. And yeah, I mean, back when this team had guys like Markel Fultz, and they're just they're just not that team anymore. And
Could go all the way back to Isaiah Thomas.
yeah, Isaiah Thomas, they've had guys come through the program, but I mean, it's been a couple of years since they've really had one of those really solid, stupid. Okay. One of those really good, all Pac-12 caliber players. And yeah, so just probably not a great outlook for the Huskies this year. All right, next up is Utah. I had them at 9, and you had them at 11.
Yeah.
The reason, I'll start off with this. I released an article that was top 5 head coaching hires for this season. I had Craig Smith to Utah at number 2, behind Chris Beard to Texas. Really, really high on that hire, because when he was at Utah State, he was an absolute winner. I think he was something like 73-25 in his last 3 or 4 seasons, and made the tournament 2 of 3 years. The only year he didn't make it was because of COVID, and we didn't have a tournament. And he also won a conference championship in that time. So this guy can win. This guy can build. This guy knows how to build a program. And he also transfers in 2 guys from Utah State. Like he got some players to follow him who he's familiar with, which I think will offset a little bit of the kind of guys having to learn a new system problem. Just because he has guys who know kind of what they're getting themselves into. So that's why, again, it will be an adjustment. Like it's not like I have Utah at 5 or anything. Like I have them at 9 because, it's going to take some time, I think, for him to really, once he gets his hands on that program, to turn them into a contender in the Pac-12. But he's there, so I like them for that reason.
I mean, not much to add. You've got both Gok. We've seen he can score the ball, but he's back in Utah. He'll get one more shot with the program. Your leading returning scorer averaged just under 10 points a game. So someone's got to pick up the scoring load if you're going to compete. You have 6 transfers. Not big on continuity for me. And I mentioned it. Like Craig Smith, great hire, right? But it's a new system. He's had one summer with these guys, spring for some of the guys returning. There's always that adjustment period. And because of that, I'm a little just maybe not worried, but I guess maybe concerned. But
those concerns are definitely valid.
Yeah.
And they lose Timmy Allen, they lose Alfonso Plummer, they lose Ian Martinez went to the Terps. Like for as many guys as they brought in, they also lost like some talented players. And so even with Craig Smith coming in, there are definitely reasons to not be super high on them for this upcoming season. But in the future, might be saying something completely different. All right, so that's Utah. Moving on to number 9 is Stanford. I had them at 10. You had them at 8. So an average of 9 in our ranking. So this is a good spot to talk about them. I think biggest thing for them is they lose Zaire Williams.
Yeah.
I think he ended up being a lottery pick, if I'm not mistaken.
He was.
Yeah. So former 5-star guy, their go-to guy. He might not have been like, super impressive while he was there, but he was still the guy. And they lose a couple other guys who had been good for them, and there's just, I don't know, they're kind of difficult to evaluate because I do think that they're talented for sure, but they're definitely less experienced, and it's kind of hard to say with them like how it'll shake out, but I think we're just defaulting to them not being super great.
I agree, but I had them at 8 solely because of Harrison Ingram.
Yes.
Just top 10 recruit. Really, really high IQ, sees the floor great. Despite like 6'8" and a 200-pound frame, some people labeled him as one of the best passers in the class, could be the best passer in his class. Absolutely. He can hoop. His shooting form's a little iffy, but he can go 2 ways. He'll defend. That's the sole reason I had them at 8. Like, I really think he may be more productive for them than what Zaire Williams was, and just offers them a lot at both ends of the floor.
He's kind of in the same mold. Like, he's a 6'8", 6'9" guy who's a forward. Like,
frame's a little better.
Yeah.
Like, college-wise, he's less skinny. But yeah.
Yeah. And
that's Stanford.
Something interesting too about Stanford is for all the kind of transfer portal happenings, they aren't bringing in anybody on transfer, which is kind of weird. Like, I don't know how many teams we can say that we've talked about so far in our previews that aren't bringing in a single player via transfer.
So you brought in a transfer.
Yeah.
That says a lot.
Yeah. Like, there are a lot of people, kind of plundered the transfer portal, and Stanford was like, no, we're good. We got our, top 25, top 30 recruiting class, and we'll stick with that. But yeah, kind of interesting to see like how they decide to run things offensively because, like you said, Harrison Ingram is going to be good, and I would probably agree that I think he will be a little more productive than Zaire Williams was. Probably a bit more efficient too.
Yes.
But that's Stanford. All right, moving on. We had Oregon State. I had
Yeah.
them at 7.
I had them at 9.
You had them at 9.
We're a little all over the place.
Yeah, this is if you've seen any of our other previews, you'll know that our rankings have generally been the same. With this one, I think it comes down to just like I think the differences between a lot of these teams are not nearly as stark as some of the other conferences. Like
No.
I think that
There's a lot less separating them.
I think there is a lot less separating them, just as far as talent goes. And yeah, so it's kind of a fine line to walk for this conference specifically. Maybe some people disagree and know this conference like the back of their hand and would say, actually, like here are the things that make these teams different. But just as far as us looking at it, we don't really see it that way.
We're also East Coast kids, and I feel like that's important to mention.
Yeah.
There, at least for me, I can't speak for you. If I'm watching a Pac-12 game, it's on the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
It's a top 25 matchup. It's the tournament, obviously, or it's November. That's when I watch the Pac-12.
Yeah, or it's like I'm up late doing homework and like
I have it on in the background.
I have it on in the background. Yeah, just to like see. So for those of you who may find our analysis a little subpar, I think we're doing okay so far. But for those of you who might not be a huge fan of it, we have an excuse.
Yes.
We live on the
I gotta
East
go to
Coast.
bed. I gotta sleep.
Yeah, like we can't watch these games that start at 11 p.m. Like, sorry, we just can't do it. Yeah, but Oregon State last year, one of the weirdest stories of last year, so bizarre. Like they were, they weren't a playing team, but they were a 12 seed.
12 seed. They were definitely 12. Yeah.
Well, first of all, they won the Pac-12 conference tournament. They beat future, Final Four team UCLA to get there. They beat Colorado, who was like a top 5 seed in the tournament. Like they beat some pretty good teams, and then didn't stop there and decided to go to the Elite Eight. They beat Cade Cunningham, which made me so frustrated. I was just so annoyed. Like they were the most annoying team, I think, last year from like a bracket standpoint. And I mean, going into this year, they're returning a lot, but like, I don't know. Can I say that they're frauds? Like, I don't know. Like
you have them at 7. How can you say they're frauds? I have them at 9. I could say they're frauds.
Okay. Well, I have them at 7 because, continuity is like our gospel around here. And so that's,
yeah.
But yeah, and I'm also kind of hedging a little bit because the reason they were so successful in those scenarios is, well, one, Ethan Thompson, but two, they like switched up their defense into like this just high powered, like swarm everything, trap everything, like just crazy defensive looks that they were throwing at teams. And so if that's something that they've figured out as like, this is going to be our thing, and they keep
our identity.
Yeah. Like they keep that rolling into this season, then I think we'll see them kind of be a little bit better, just for like win some more games. But like, I don't know. Like I'm always just wary of these teams that don't finish super high in the conference and then, go on tournament runs. Like, yeah, the tournament run was cool. Like it was great. Good for you. But as far as
March,
it's March, like crazy things happen. But as far as a full regular season, you have not shown me that you can be that team in a regular season context. It's a similar thing with Syracuse. Like they finish 7th or 8th in the ACC every year and then make the Sweet 16 inevitably. But
always like clockwork.
Yeah, it's consistent. Like they aren't really a regular season team. They're a tournament team. And so that's kind of where I'm at with Oregon State. You got anything?
I added Ethan Thompson. That's why to me, whatever magic they captured last season was basically because of him, and they relied on him so heavily.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's why they lost to Houston.
Yeah. Yeah. So is that why you have them sliding a little bit? Is
Yes.
because they lose him? Okay. I mean,
Yes.
that's
And
fair.
I'm high on Harrison Ingram. So those two factors.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I got you. Um, yeah. So I don't know. Oregon State could push for some type of at-large bid. I think. Like,
Yeah.
maybe. I think they can. Yeah. So we'll see with the Beavers, but both of us collectively not really buying into the tournament magic that they showed us last year.
Yeah.
Okay, so we had them at what did we have them at 8?
Yeah.
All right, so 7. We both had Colorado at 7. So
Sweet.
yeah, so you can start us on Colorado.
I mean, defensively, they're going to be really tough again. That they are one of those teams that is their identity. They did kind of hit their ceiling last year with that 4-16 conference record, and they lose McKinley Wright. So super tough to replace that production. You're returning one double-digit scorer in Evan Batty. You do kind of have an undersized starting front court. Do have a 7-footer sitting on the bench, but he's a freshman. You're bringing in, I think, 5 freshmen, and again, they're another team that did not hit the transfer portal.
Yeah.
So you've got your what was traditional before we've had this kind of influx of transfers over the past maybe 5 years, where we had the traditional, you're going to return 6 guys and here's a 4 to 5 man recruiting class. But he's got shooters. This is where I'll give him the solid tag. It's a solid Buffaloes team that will play defense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Colorado.
For me, Colorado is such a difficult team to evaluate because they finished as a top 10 KenPom team last year. Like, and I don't necessarily swear by KenPom as like the end all be all. But all the teams that are around them in KenPom were like Elite 8 teams. Like I think, and except for Iowa, who lost in the second round, and then Loyola Chicago, who I think made the Sweet 16. So like,
yeah.
But they're, a lot of these teams that are in the top 10 with them, like showed it in the tournament, and Colorado wasn't one of those teams. But defensively, just so good. Like most years, like that's kind of what you can expect from them. But at the end of the day, like I'm just not sure. I do think losing McKinley Wright hurts them a lot. Like I think he finished as the all-time assist leader at Colorado. Like great playmaker. And one of the guys that had said, like, I would have gone to Minnesota if they had recruited me. Or that stuff.
Yes.
But yeah. Yeah, and they're adding, like you said, 6 freshmen. So and it's not like a type of 6 freshmen that we'd see with like a Michigan or like one of these really good teams that just get like top recruits. Like their 6 freshmen, I think, will be fine, but it's more of a question with them of like, how do they buy into this defensive identity and
immediate production too?
How well do they fit in, and are they able to produce right away? Because looking at this roster, it's kind of one of those, like we've talked about Virginia before, like who is going to be the one to produce for them? As good as they are defensively, who's it going to be? Yeah, so Colorado, middle tier type of team, but also another team that could really push for a postseason bid. Yeah, so moving on with these next 6 teams, there's a few that we could really talk about in any order because we were split as far as where we had them. But first,
let's pick one.
Let's talk about Washington State. I had them at 5, and you had them
at 6.
You had them at 6.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can start us on Washington State, and then I'll chime in with why I had them as a top 5 team.
Noah Williams, know the name. Know the name, can score at all 3 levels. Prototypical kind of like scoring guard/wing, I guess. Can really shoot the ball. Watching them do like pin down curls where he comes out onto the wing is just the way he squares his body just as a shooter. It's so fun to watch. Can dribble, can shoot, offensive nightmare. You have Mohamed Gaye. He's on the roster, right? I know that was a question mark.
Yes.
Hold on, I'll find out.
Yeah, just double check that. But while you're looking at that, I'm very high on their backcourt. I think their backcourt's going to be awesome. Maybe one of the best in the Pac-12, and so that's why I have them as a top 5 team. I think they're sort of slowly turning into a team that like will really challenge some of the contenders. Maybe not as far as like winning the conference goes, but like in game to game, like I think they will hang with some very good teams. And they bring in Michael Flowers from South Alabama.
Yeah.
Who it's South Alabama. Okay, it's South Alabama. Like I get it, but also averaging 21 points.
Regardless,
you can score. Like it does not matter.
No, it does not matter.
Coming from 21 points a game is
walking bucket.
Walking bucket. I do not care what team you play for. Scoring that many points in college basketball is very, very difficult. So that's something that, maybe he doesn't score 21, but maybe he scores 16 points a game. Like he will.
Williams adds in 18, 19, whatever it may be.
Yeah, like he will put the ball. And they also bring in Tyrell Roberts, who averaged 19 for UC San Diego.
Could legitimately have a 50-plus point backcourt.
Yeah, their backcourt's going to be nasty. And I think their front court is good enough to
win. Yeah.
Like, I think they're good enough. Whatever. But like the front court is good enough, and the back court I think will be great. So
okay.
Yeah. That's why I like Washington State. And it's not often that we get to talk about Washington State being like really good. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe just buy in on them. But yeah, what did you find on is he going to be
He's on the roster, 6'11".
Okay.
Listed 6'11", 210.
Okay. Was there a reason for why he wouldn't be on the roster?
I can't remember. There was some. Oh no, it was because he reclassed from 2022. He played a prolific prep, and so it was academic requirement things.
Gotcha. Okay, so his eligibility wasn't questioned. It wasn't like okay.
Yeah.
Okay, makes sense.
It was academic stuff.
Okay,
I don't think it was grades. Like I was legitimately just like course requirements.
Yeah. Okay. So really, yeah, he'll be there.
He's there. He's already there. We're good.
He is there. Yeah. So yeah, moving on to our next sort of 5-6 team, Arizona State. So yeah, Arizona State, they bring back Marcus Bagley, which is huge. I had him graded as like a borderline first round pick, like 30, 31, 32 type of guy last year. I think he could have snuck into that range. By the end, like I think he was there in at least one of my mock drafts, but that was probably early on in the cycle. I think by the end, he was probably slid out of that like early second round range. But anyway, bringing him back is big for them. But they do lose Remy Martin. They lose Josh Christopher. And those losses will hurt them, I think, a lot. And the other thing too is this team underperformed last year really, really bad. Like they were 7-10 in the conference, 11-14 overall, had a ton of talent and guys who like Josh Christopher's in the NBA now. Like they had
very top 15 recruit.
He was, yeah. He was a Sierra Canyon guy. Like they just underperformed, and that's kind of concerning entering this year where they don't have Christopher, they don't have Martin. So it's like, what do they look like now? I do still think they're talented, but last year kind of makes me a little hesitant to put them kind of where the talent would indicate that they would be.
Yes. One quick thing just on the high school thing. Christopher played at Mayfair, not Sierra Canyon.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was Mayfair, but it's also it's a California team that is navy blue and silver, so I can't.
Oh, okay, maybe that's why. I guess I was just picturing him in the jersey and figuring.
Yeah, no, you're good. It's just Mayfair. I think I have them here. You are high on the Washington State backcourt. I'm high on the Arizona State backcourt. Like, I feel Heath can score. Marion Jackson can really score. And Luther Muhammad, while inconsistent at Ohio State, is a great two-way 3-and-D guy. So he'll pick you up full court. He was just a menace at Hudson Catholic alongside Javon Quinterly. Got the infamous Colin Sexton meme. But yeah, Luther Muhammad, I'm kind of high on that. And I think Bagley's production will be better this year. I think. And, maybe I'm totally wrong about the Sun Devils and we get a repeat of what coaches were kind of hinting at. We had a lot of me guys, but not a lot of we guys in the locker room. And it just didn't. There were a ton of egos in that locker room. So that's not surprising. But so many losses, it'll be hard to replace. But I do think their backcourt will produce.
Mm-hmm. And I do like the Marion Jackson transfer because he does like everything like
Yes.
that you could want. Like he follows his shot, like rebounds well for his position, can pass the ball, like great court vision, can score. Like he's going to be kind of an all-in-one guard for this team. So I do think we both have them like kind of 5'6" range. So like we're sort of
they are above solid.
In lockstep with that. Yeah, they've cleared the solid tier. So
they've cleared the solid tier.
Congrats to Arizona State. But yeah, hopefully just with the talent that they have, they'll hit the projection and not kind of underperform. And maybe it does just come down to the locker room, like the chemistry. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what Hurley can do with this team. But yeah, I think they'll be fine. And I do think that they'll be another kind of team that will, challenge some of these other teams game to game, like really hang with some guys just because of the talent that they have. So
yeah,
there you go. All right, 4. So we've gone back and forth. We've each gone back and forth on 3 and 4, but we both settled with the same team at 4, and that is the Arizona Wildcats. You could ask us tomorrow, and we might feel differently.
It might be the Trojans.
Might be the Trojans instead. But as for this moment in time, we both have Arizona at 4. So kick us off with Arizona.
Okay, so I got to hold myself to the same thing. I like the Craig Smith hire at Utah. I love the Tommy Lloyd hire at Arizona. If I'm gonna rank the Utes lower because of the lack of continuity in the coaching department, I will hold myself to the same thing here with Arizona. It's a great hire. They do lose James Akinjo to Baylor. That is massive loss for the backcourt. They're returning 2 double-digit scores. Lloyd will have this team running. I really thought he was just going to stay at Gonzaga till he retired because he was the coach in waiting. But very well could still be the coach in waiting. It just he's Arizona until he's Gonzaga. So you're kind of in a program in transition in a sense. You're gone from the FBI Sean Miller fiasco. You're trying to move on, trying to make the tournament. Lloyd, I think he has this team there, probably in that like 6 or 7 seed range, but it's a good Arizona team.
Yeah, I think that will be huge for them, not just having to worry about this whole Sean Miller nonsense that seemed to follow them everywhere. I also like the Tommy Lloyd hire. For those of you who, we kind of mentioned it, but Tommy Lloyd was an assistant at Gonzaga, and really was there for them turning that
20 years, 2 decades.
Yeah, was really there for all of it, turning with Mark Few, turning that program from tiny little school that you've never heard of to a team that people think isn't even a mid-major anymore.
He recruited all the international guys, so we can expect that if Arizona buys into the Lloyd hire and they give him more than the courtesy of like 3 years, that he'll recruit on the international level and could replicate the same thing in Navy and Red.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, and that's for those of you who have kind of followed along with college basketball for the last couple of years. Up until maybe like 2-3 years ago, a lot of Gonzaga's premier players were recruited internationally. I think of like Chemek Karnowski. I think Nigel Williams-Goss was internationally recruited, if I'm not mistaken.
Kevin Pangos,
Yeah, Evan Pangos, Domantas Sabonis,
Kelly Olynyk,
yeah, Kelly Olynyk, like all these guys were not from the States. And
Rui Hachimura. Okay,
Rui
I'll stop
Hachimura,
naming
there you go.
Gonzaga
Like
players.
these are all like phenomenal players that have come through Gonzaga who were recruited internationally, and a lot of that is due to Tommy Lloyd. Another player that we have not named him yet, but Benedict Mathurin is I think he's gonna be awesome. I think he's gonna be awesome. A lot of people late in the draft cycle last year, it was very unclear whether he was going to come back to school or not. He had his name in the draft, but eventually decided to pull out and come back to Arizona. But he was really getting some hype leading up to the draft as like, we might draft this kid in the first round because he could really, like, he's that talented. So he was a 10 points a game, 4 rebounds a game guy last year. And I think a lot of people are expecting him to break out this season and be like an all Pac-12 first team.
Some people first team, yeah.
Yeah, so look out for that because I mean I think he's the the primary candidate for like the best player at Arizona. And yeah, like it kind of just comes down to Tommy Lloyd and whether like how much we buy into that, whether we put
how quickly too he can get them to shape up.
Yeah. So yeah, this is a top 3, top 4 team, and hopefully without the Sean Miller thing hanging over their head, they will return to being a competitive team in the Pac.
Absolutely.
Yep. So next up, USC. This is a team that we both had at 3. This is a team that could very well be at 4 for us tomorrow, and this is a team that made the Elite 8 last year with a premier talent in Evan Mobley, who is now in the NBA. Goodbye. So yeah, what are your thoughts on USC?
We kind of have concerns about who's going to be the guy on like these bottom tier Pac-12 teams. You kind of have that same sense with USC. It's just they have a better roster to where you're thinking maybe like Boogie Ellis, you got him from Memphis. He's a scoring guard. You put him in a pick and roll with Isaiah Mobley, Evan's older brother. See where that goes. Isaiah can pop. He can roll. You can kind of get that switch onto a big with Boogie. Both of those two guys probably figured to be the number 1 and number 2 options. Whether or not, I know specifically 3-man weave has not really bought into the Andy Enfield hype.
Yeah.
Maybe I am in a certain vein, like certain sense. But the Evan Mobley loss is huge, and just whether we're really going to see if this team can go without his production and everything, him taking all the defensive looks from other teams. But Chavez Goodwin figures to play well. I like their freshmen are solid. They can contribute a good amount. I think a couple points off the bench. But this is weirdly like a solid, good team, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think I would definitely agree with like most of what you're saying. I think with USC and Arizona, I think the roster quality is pretty comparable. And I think at the end of the day, it does come down to like which coach we're buying into on a given day.
Yeah.
Because Tommy Lloyd was great as an assistant coach, but is now getting these head coaching duties, and we're high on him. And then Andy Enfield has kind of underperformed, but has more experience and was just in the Elite last year. But yeah, it's how much of that was Evan Mobley, like how much of that was just the talent that he was dealing with. And USC, like we're gonna keep going back and forth on USC, I think, but we see the path to them being a top 3 team, but we also see like the roster is like not overly impressive to where you're like they're a shoe-in for the 3rd team in the conference. So
in the Pac-12, we'll get to it, but the Pac-12 is very clearly 2 teams and then everybody else.
Yeah, which has kind of been a theme for us with like a lot of our previews. Like it seems like there's always 2 teams, but
yes, but this is way more like the Big Ten. You still got Illinois and Ohio State. teams
Yeah.
that you could theoretically see them winning the conference.
Yeah, ACC.
I will be shocked if neither of these two teams wins the conference.
Yes,
Shocked.
yeah, I agree. I think the separation between 2 and 3 is much bigger than in the other conferences that we've talked about. But yeah, moving on to our clear top 2, which we have in a different order. So I guess we'll talk about Oregon because I think most people would expect UCLA to win this conference.
I can
I
slander UCLA though.
yeah, I mean there will be a fair amount of that, and then our preseason rankings will come out, and it'll just be more of the same. But yeah, Oregon, I have them winning the conference, and here's why. UCLA, I've said this before, they finished. They made the Final Four. That's great, and they returned pretty much everybody, but they finished 4th place in the conference last year. Like that, I don't know. Like, yeah, they were talented enough they were a playing team last year, and bringing everybody back doesn't necessarily guarantee that they're the easy pick for number 1 in the conference, because I really like Dana Altman as a coach. I think he's actually kind of underrated with how he's, kind of turned Oregon into this like, oh, they're a 7 seed. It doesn't matter. They're going to get to the Sweet 16. Oh, they're a,
Yeah.
like 9, 10 seed. Like, oh, they can still beat one of these, higher seeded teams that people expect to go further. Like, I like Dana Altman, and I do like the Quincy Guerrier transfer from Syracuse. I think that's a big get for them. I like that they bring Will Richardson back as kind of the senior guard. We've seen them have very good senior guards last couple of years with Chris Duarte and Peyton Pritchard, and was Dylan Brooks a senior when I think he was.
I think he was.
I think he
When
was a
he beat
4-year.
Duke. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was a 4-year
That Final
player.
Four run.
Yeah, so like we always have an Oregon team with a senior guard, and Dana Altman works his magic, and I do not think the Pac-12 is as like clear cut as UCLA just blows the doors off of everybody. Because also just in the Pac-12, that's not what happens. Like year to year, it's like you see
Chaos.
Yeah, it's chaos. Like, and that's kind of why we flip-flopped on so many of these teams, because we see that like, oh, like these guys are a lot closer to each other than most of the other conferences.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where I am on Oregon, but yeah, give me your thoughts.
I'm interested to see the front court battle in particular. And Fale Dante is coming off of a torn ACL, and you've got a 5-star recruit in Nate Biddle, who I think ESPN had him like 12th. Who wins? We've seen that fairly traditional look. Like Quincy Guerrier is probably going to be a stretch 4 for them. I think he's going to start. So it comes down to who's going to get that center job. And regardless, for you to have Dante and Biddle as your 1-2 is an incredible punch. But I want to see whether he's going to roll with a freshman or a guy who averaged 8 and 6 last year. Davion Harmon, sleeper maybe for like second team Pac-12. I think people kind of have him as an honorable mention or a third team. He can score the rock, so could definitely find himself in that situation. And Will Richardson, although he was injured most of last season, he averaged 11 points a game.
He was supposed to be the go-to guy before he got hurt.
He'll be the go-to guy this year without a doubt. And so potential player of the year. It'll be tough to beat Juzang, but And I think for freshman of the year, it's a 3-horse race between aforementioned Harrison Ingram, Nate Biddle, depending on the amount of minutes he gets at Oregon, although the offensive upside is there, and a freshman we will talk about for UCLA.
Yes. Yeah. I'm right there with you. And then I guess the last thing I wanted to say too is like N'Faly Dante he's a 5-star recruit who missed a lot of last year too. Like these guys got hit with a ton of injuries and like COVID issues.
They didn't play till December.
Yeah, they didn't play for a month, and they had all these injuries and COVID problems, and they still won the conference. Like, if that doesn't speak to Dana Altman, I don't know what is, because when you lose like that much talent in a given year, and like guys are coming in and out because of sickness or injury or whatever, like it comes down to the coaching at that point, and he has shown that he can do it. And if I don't anticipate that we'll have the same COVID issues this year, so I do think this is a team that can win the conference.
So
But
I do want to ask, because I was looking at their schedule earlier today.
yeah,
Do they win the Maui Invitational?
who else is in the Maui Invitational? Which also the Maui Invitational is not in Maui, which is kind of sad.
It's in Las Vegas.
Yeah, but kind of sad. And also, here's the thing too, is I think isn't Gonzaga UCLA in Las Vegas at the same time as the Maui Invitational?
That
Like,
would be hilarious.
That
if
kind
it
of
is.
sucks for the Maui Invitational.
I'm gonna die if that's the case. See, that's another thing I gotta look up. But okay, so Maui Invitational, just to get through it. Wisconsin,
Yeah.
A&M, Texas A&M, St. Mary's, Notre Dame, Houston, which I think is a big challenger, and Butler, and Chaminade, of course.
Mm-hmm. Chaminade. No, I'm just kidding.
Oregon plays Chaminade first.
Yeah. I think it comes down to Oregon and Houston. That's what I think it comes down to. But a lot of those other teams, like, early in the season, could see some surprises. If Notre Dame's offense just runs guys out of the building, maybe. I think they might be a sleeper for that tournament. We've talked about Wisconsin and all their issues before. Yes. So I don't really think that they're equipped to win that tournament with some of the other rosters that will be there.
I agree.
But I would say it comes down to Oregon, Houston, and then dark horse Notre Dame. And
I like that dark horse Notre Dame pick. Prentice Hub.
And then
Electric.
Yeah. And then wait, was there? I feel like who's the team you said after Wisconsin?
Texas A&M.
Okay, never mind. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
No.
Never mind.
No.
All right. I will end my
St. Mary's though. Always a little sleeper in those kind of tournaments.
Oh yeah, always a little bit. People just don't expect much of them, and then they win a game in these tournaments that you don't expect. But I'm gonna keep my picks the way they are, and just Oregon or Houston, and then sleeper Notre Dame. That's my prediction for Maui Invitational, the Las Vegas Maui Invitational. But
all right, let's slander a potential national champion.
Yeah, let's go to our UCLA slander segment, which we've kind of hinted at in various episodes, and I've kind of given my thoughts already on why I just haven't totally bought in yet. So you start us off on the UCLA slander.
Okay, so I'm not as slanderous of UCLA as I think you are. Yeah. I think they're still on paper a top 5 team, but forecasting to March, I would just narrative-wise, storyline, maybe a little bit of magic. I'd take some teams maybe that'll be ranked behind them over them. Still, you have Tiger Campbell, could make third team, second team. Peyton Watson, probably him or Ingram for freshman of the year, with Biddle as a little coming up the rear. Juzang has to be your conference player of the year to start. Just the amount of scoring he has. You return Cody Riley, Miles Johnson, and I think I saw an absurd stat, and it might have been either Sweeney for Sports Illustrated or Riley Davis for Heat Check. But Miles Johnson, I think, blocked 70 shots last year, and UCLA as a team blocked 68. So interior definitely on lockdown. But yes, so very talented team. In my head, probably top 5. Have to sit down and look at it. But they can score the ball. It's just whether or not they can. There's so much expectation on them that it is going to be so tough. Their schedule, though, they're playing Villanova in their second game of the season. Great game. They've got Gonzaga 2 weeks later. UNLV, that just seems like a fun game. And they've got North Carolina in December. So you've got 3.
That's going to be fun. That's going to be real
3
fun.
top 15 games.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they also loaded up on the non-conference schedule too. So um, here's the thing with UCLA. Like,
I'm ready.
it kind of just comes down to what I've said already. Like they had all these guys. Okay. I wrote last year about after the Chris Smith injury towards ACL was out for the season. I was like, UCLA is going to fall off. Like they're going to be a disaster now without him because
You weren't wrong.
like at the time, like he was leading the team in scoring. He was like first and second in like assists and rebounds or something. Like he was literally doing everything for them and shooting, 48% from the field or something. Like he was doing it all for them. And Johnny Juzang was not the Johnny Juzang that we've come to expect at that point. Like he had transferred from Kentucky because it didn't go so hot at Kentucky. And like, it was kind of like, is he going to figure it out? And he did figure it out. And like, credit to them. I do have a soft spot for UCLA because a couple years ago, they were like one of the only Pac-12 teams that I really cared to watch. But they will be good. Like, and I get the preseason hype. Like, yeah, they're in the Final Four and they bring everybody back, but I just don't know, man. Like, I just don't know. And
it's that gut feeling. It's that weird gut feeling.
It's a weird gut feeling that like
that doesn't make sense.
It's almost too good to be true.
Yes.
And Johnny Juzang though, like probably player of the year if we had to pick one right now. But
it's so hard to go to back-to-back Final Fours, let alone like it'll be so tough for Gonzaga to get back to the national. It's just so hard in college basketball. Too many teams, especially this year where when I say this, legitimately 14 teams I could see winning the national title. Yeah. But I can't remember the last time there were that many teams. And I'm like, theoretically could cut like these Elite 8 Sweet 16 matchups are going to be amazing.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
They're going to be amazing.
And like a lot of coaching moves, like the coaching will be like top tier. So, and the last thing for UCLA is they were 13th in Ken Palm last year, which is good, but just using that as like supplementary material for my UCLA slander, that doesn't really indicate to me that, that they're this like juggernaut of a team. If they were like top like 8 and returned everybody, like, I don't know, maybe I'm splitting hairs at that point, but like, you kind of get what I'm saying. Like they weren't everyone's kind of judging them based on 5 games, 6 games that they played last year. And that was the tournament. And like the tournament ultimately in college basketball is what matters, but we're evaluating them for the regular season. And we have kind of seen like some teams just are completely different regular season to postseason. We've touched on
this could be that team. They underperform because they're clearly better than the additional 10 teams in the Pac-12. But maybe they don't win the regular season title, but they push in March. So
right. And it's not like, it's crazy to me that it's viewed as slander to be like they're a top 2 team in their conference. Like
they're a top 2 team in their conference, and they're probably a top 8 team in the country.
Yeah, like that. It's crazy to me that that's like slander. Like that's basically praise. Like I'm still like, it's not like I'm saying
they're ridiculously good, but
they're gonna be 20th in the country. Like that's not at all what I'm saying. So if people are like, mad at me for that, then so be it. But I don't know. That's just, I want to make that known. I want to make it known that I'm calling it now, and maybe they'll prove me wrong, but I'm calling it now. Okay, that's it for the Pac-12, actually the Pac-13, excuse me. And let's just run through our all conference team and award winners real quick. So, okay, for me, here's what I'll say. I'll say Will Richardson, Johnny Juzang, Benedict Mathurin, and then after that, it's like, I have no idea. I don't know who to put in at that last like forward spot if we want to go by position.
We don't have to do that.
You're right.
Went guard and 4 centers for the Big Ten.
Yeah. How about this? I'll put I'll take Will Richardson, Juzang, Matherin, Jaquez from UCLA, and let's say like Gary or Trent like steps it up. Let's say it's like
Okay.
all Oregon and UCLA players because I think that
Okay.
makes sense. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Mhm.
I'm not that much different. But I will go Noah Williams, Richardson, Juzang, Matherin. Shoot.
Yeah, it's tough.
I'll throw caution. No.
Do it. Do it.
Yes.
Do it.
Caution to the wind. Oh, I don't know which one is more.
We don't need to play it safe. All right. We don't have to.
Marcus Bagley or Isaiah Mobley.
All
will
right.
Round out.
Okay. Hey, I think that's fair. I think those are respectable. I think those are totally fine picks. And yeah.
Watch Jaquez just go off. I feel like we didn't talk about him enough.
Maybe that. Yeah, I know. Like I put him in my first team just because like he's one of the only names that I know. Like I know what I'm getting with him. So
yeah.
And if UCLA is like this great team, then I'm kind of hedging my bets a little bit. And then freshman of the year, I'm going to go Harrison Ingram because I think Peyton Watson will be overshadowed by other guys on his team. And I would say the same
Biddle?
About Biddle.
Yes, so Harrison Ingram, freshman of the year.
Harrison Ingram will be freshman of the year. And then player of the year, I'll just say Juzang, but I think it could.
Juzang.
I think it'll be Juzang. I think he'll probably carry that team. Maybe, I mean, they have a good roster, but I think he will easily be the best guy. All right. So what were the questions that you wanted to get?
Okay. So one, does Gonzaga leave? So this is what happens first. Okay. Does Gonzaga leave the West Coast Conference to join the Pac-12, or does UCLA win a national title? Or does it happen at all?
Okay, so I know that we joke about like the Gonzaga leaving thing. Like that's kind of just like the funny thing to say, but I think with all the movement that's been going on, I think that might be more likely than happen first than UCLA winning a national title. But I do think what I will say on the UCLA side is that they will, over the next couple of years, be bringing in a lot of very talented players. And usually those are the type Amari Bailey, Drake's son-in-law.
Is he really?
No, it's because like Drake went on like a
I know. He was always at the Sierra Canyon games.
Yeah, that I'm just messing around. But they will be bringing in some very talented players, and usually those are the types of schools that will figure it out eventually. And I do like Mick Cronin. Like I think he's a good coach, and but just with I think there's a lot of like uproar too. Like I think eventually Gonzaga will be so tired of like people
getting chastised.
Yeah, people disrespecting them for the conference they play in, that they will eventually move. But like the other thing too, like I said earlier, it's more than just like the basketball programs. Like either like I think they'd get destroyed in every other sport.
Do they have a football team?
No, I don't think they do. I'm pretty sure they don't. I mean, it's fine, yeah. So I mean, and we do see like for some specific sports, like different teams moving to different conferences. Like Notre Dame's in the ACC for basketball, but for football they're independent. So,
well, they're in every sport but football.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
They're just being difficult.
Yeah, they're just being frauds, is what they're being.
But, yeah. Irish slander.
Yeah.
It's 2 episodes now.
2 episodes, yeah. All right. Hey,
2 episodes now.
Another theme to harp on, but I would say Gonzaga leaves first. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
What's your next one?
Sticking on the Gonzaga front.
Okay.
Set aside Chet Holmgren.
Okay.
Of the 3 newcomers that I'll highlight, Rasir Bolton, Hunter Salas, Nolan Hickman, who has the greatest impact?
So I'm going to rule out Rasir Bolton because Iowa State was absolute garbage. And like, clearly he did not have that much of an impact on that team. maybe that's unfair of me to say, but like
Maybe a little, but
maybe a
yeah.
little bit, but they lost every single game they played. Like they were really, really bad. And so maybe that's unfair of me to rule them out because of that, but I'm gonna do it anyway. I think Hunter Salas. I'll say it. I think Hunter Salas because I think he's gonna be the best guy to fill in for kind of the role that Jalen Suggs was filling. But maybe I'm
Okay.
wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Like, I mean, Andrew Nemhard will probably slide to the 1 and like,
I think
I don't,
Nemhard slides to the 1.
yeah. So that's a really good question. And we might put a poll out on this on the Twitter. But I'm going to lean Hunter Salas and say Rasir Bolton, probably not. But I think, I don't know. I think that's a good question. And it's sort of weird because like, whoever that guy, like none of those guys will be the top, like they'll be like the 4th option at best, I think, all of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're
It's
kind
crazy.
of
The 4th option.
Yeah, which is crazy. But all right, I think that about wraps it up for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in, whether it's on
This is a long episode.
It is. Yeah, we had a lot to say, but thanks everybody for tuning in, whether it's on YouTube or Spotify. Be sure to give us a follow on Spotify. Never miss
And Twitter.
Follow us on Twitter at Jimmer.
Please follow us on Twitter.
Please follow us on Twitter. I think we have a fun, entertaining Twitter, and we want you guys to see all that stuff that's on there.
Also, if you follow Carl and I on Twitter, but don't follow the podcast, don't make me call you out because that is kind of frustrating.
Yeah, just
it's a follow button.
Yeah, it's free, guys. It's free to follow.
We might spam your timeline come like the winter, but
yeah, but it'll be all good stuff that you want to see. So there's really no reason not to follow us. So yeah, it's free. We aren't pulling out like super follows or anything crazy like that. Like we're just some guys who like to talk about college basketball. And if you like college basketball, you should follow us. Vendetta Sports Media YouTube channel. Subscribe to that too. Hit the bell icon.
Twitch.
There's a lot other great content on there besides the stuff that we do.
Yes.
There's NBA stuff going on. There's gaming stuff. There's other podcasts that you should really look at.
Yep. We got some great baseball coverage right now. Hockey season winding up.
Yeah, like there's a lot of stuff coming out. So just make sure to follow us on Twitter, on YouTube, like all that stuff to make sure you never miss any of it. But
absolutely,
I think I always miss something, but I think I've gotten everything this time. But
no, I think we have it.
All right, let's go. All right, for Alex, that's gonna do it. Thank you guys for tuning in. We will see you next time.